Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Underhive Wars. This is a series of Necromunda battle reports for our Dominion campaign, and this is battle report number 6. It is fought between my two friends Death with his Dustmen, it's a Chaos Cultist gang, versus my other friend Lady Domina of the Killjoys, a House Escher gang. So we're now done with the very first round of our Dominion campaign. All the gangs have fought each other for the very first round, and now we're starting up round number 2. And starting off for round number 2 will be our fight between my friend Death as well as Lady Domina. This one is a sneak attack scenario. My friend Lady Domina will play the defender, while my friend Death will play the attacker. So that being said, let's play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the gangs are bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Okay, so let's go talk about the scenario real quick. This is a sneak attack scenario. The objective is for the attacker to destroy the rival gang's relic. The defender also starts off with 5 members to defend their relic. They also earn D3 reinforcements every end phase. For the rewards, the attacker gets D6 times credits if they manage to destroy the relic, otherwise they earn D3 times 10 creds, and the defender earns D6 times credits if they protect the relic and it survives, otherwise they earn D3 times 10 credits. For the experience, every single surviving banging member who takes place in the scenario earns +1 experience points. Also, each leader also earns an experience point if they have fighters still in the battlefield by the time this scenario ends. When it comes to reputation, both gangs earn +1 point reputation for fighting against each other for the very first time. If the defender's relic is destroyed, they lose 2 points reputation, and if the attacker manages to destroy the relic, they earn 2 reputation points. And of course, if either gang bottles out, they also lose 1 reputation point as well. Alright, so with this scenario rules over with, let's go directly to the battle plan. As you can see on this photo here, my friend Lady Domina has deployed her forces on the top of the tower here on the right hand side of the battlefield. Up on the top she has Mad Donna as well as One Shot Blonde, and towards the near side of the table she has her leader Furia with Trixie as well as Raven. And those canisters right in the middle of the communications tower, the Tower of Terror, that is her relic that she'll be using for this scenario. And on the same side of the table, right beneath them on the ground level, is where my friend Death decided to deploy his Dustmen. Over on the left-hand side, you have Gasser, as well as Sakahead, as well as Nerf number 1. That's his gang's Juvie, who's right next to his leader, King Slender. Right in the middle, you have Roar, his gang champion, is armed with the Heavy Stubber, as well as the Oculoid, which is the ganger armed with the Autogun. To the right is Bloodrazor, his Chaos Witch cult leader, and right next to them is the Nerf Herder, which is a ganger that they recruited last time, as well as Hoodie. And that pretty much makes up my friend Death's deployment for this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of the turn, and both my friends roll off for initiative to see who will go first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1 for the action phase. My friend Lady Domina managed to secure the initiative on this one, so she'll be going first. So the first thing she does, she activate her gang leader Furia, who then in turn also activates Raven, as well as Trixie. And as you can see, all 3 gang members spend one of their actions moving directly to the edge of the table. The top of the tower. So from their vantage point atop the Tower of Terror, they do have a good line of shot access straight down to the ground level to where my friend Death is located at. For some reason, my friend Death didn't think that the Killjoys will be able to reach him from that angle, but a couple of members of his gang, especially the ones along the back rank, especially where Roar is located at, they're directly in the line of sight for these gangers to open up on them. So because of that, my friend Lady Domina then opens up with all 3 of her gang members. Trixie's armed with a last gun, and the other 2 are armed with bolt rifles with Nightshade dart launchers attached to them as well. So things are not going to be very good for my friend Death on this one. So the very first shot that Trixie lands with her last gun, she was able to hit anything. She rolled a 1 to hit, so because of that, her shot goes way wide. However, when Fury takes aim with her bolt gun, she directs it directly at the Bloodrazor, which is the closest target towards her. Not only does she manage to hit that guy, she also manages to put him out of action as well. So because of that, Bloodrazor goes out of action, First Blood goes to the Killjoys, and because he goes down within 3 inches of all those other gang members, they all have to take cool tests real quick. And as you see, a couple of them actually do fail it. On the right hand side, Hoodie fails his and runs directly beneath the Tower of Terror into the dead dead space right beneath the tower, so the Killjoys can't shoot him anymore, as well as Roar. He loses his cool too, and also runs to the base of the tower. Now the rest of the gang managed to pass their cool checks without incident. However, another one of his gang members do go down. Odeth's ganger, the Oculoid, gets hit by Raven, who's the ganger's armed with a bolt gun. Managed to hit as well as wound him as well, puts 2 flesh wounds on the guy, and he also seriously injures him too. So because of that, he hits the deck and goes on the ground. I believe he got hit twice with Bolter from Raven. And the reason why that's so devastating is because Bolters in Necromunda caused 2 damage, which means they didn't have a total of 4 wound rolls on this one, so it was pretty bad. 2 of them came up flesh wounds, the other 2 came up as seriously injured, so he's just on the ground bleeding out. And as you can see, it also caused him the panic as well. I believe his name was not Beaker, Gasser? Yeah, that was his name, Gasser. Gasser failed his cool test as well, so because of that, he runs up to the base of the tower as well, because he doesn't want to get shot at with that one. And so with that opening salvo, we go directly to my friend Odeth. Odeth, feeling the pressure to get his forces out of the way, decides to activate his gang leader, King Slender, who then also activates both Saga Head as well as Nerf number 1 because we're within 3 inches of him using his commanding presence ability. So he spends a double movement, putting all 3 of those guys on the floor of the Tower of Terror, so that way they're out of the shooting ranges of the Killjoys, because he doesn't want to lose any more people. In response to that, my friend Lady Domina then decides to activate Mad Donna, who then also activates One Shot Blonde. She spends a double movement to drop Mad Donna from the top level of the Tower of Terror to the 2nd level. Now, she will not be able to shoot because she is carrying a heavy stubber, but she has a good chance to secure that corner of the tower to make sure that the Dustmen don't go around the corner and try to intercept her forces, so you can open up the heavy stubber in the next turn as well. She then also runs up One Shot Blonde to the edge of the table, and because of where One Shot Blonde is located at, she has a great line of sight shot towards the Nerf Herder, which is my friend Odeth's ganger down below. And not only does she manage to hit him, she also manages to wound him as well, puts a serious injury on him. So because of that, the Nerf Herder is now on the ground, bleeding out, and he has to roll up on the end phase to see exactly what happens to him. So with that being done, with the opening salvos of turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the end phase. Luckily for my friend Odeth, all of his gangers who lost their nerf do manage to pass their nerf test, so because of that, Roar, Gazer, as well as Hoodie can act in the next action phase as well. And at the same time, Nerf Herder also gets up on his feet as well, taking a flesh wound from a serious injury. However, the Oculoid is still laying on the ground, still bleeding up. He is still seriously injured, and he won't be able to do anything for the next action phase as well. And because Lady Domina is also the defender on this scenario, she gets D3 reinforcements from her gang. She rolls a D6 and rolls a 6. So because of that, all 3 members of her gang pop up. She only has 8 members other than the Killjoy, so the remaining 3 members show up. And that is Marlowe, Harlow, her 2 Juvies, as well as Nocturna, her ganger. And they deploy here on the other side of the Tower of Terror. So that way they can start making some movements real quick. When the reinforcements arrive, they can select any table edge they want to arrive on, but they must remain within 1 inch of it. And at least 12 inches away from enemy miniatures as well. And that pretty much makes up her turn. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield, so that way you can see exactly what's going on. As you can see, the Dustmen are trying to catch up to the Killjoys by running to the base of the tower. My friend Odeth realized that maybe setting up so close directly into the line of fire with the Killjoys is not such a great idea. Also on the right hand side, you can also see the reinforcements of the Killjoys arriving as well, which is also kind of a bad spot because Lady Domina, I don't think you noticed this, but if you look over there at the base of the tower, you can see that Hoodie has a good clean line of shot with his gun for the next turn. So if she doesn't, make some moves fast, her gangers over there on the right hand side, her reinforcements will be shot to pieces by the Dustmen if they're not careful. And as you can see, the Dustmen are trying to climb up the Tower of Terror to get to the top floor, so that way they can destroy the Killjoy's relic. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 2, and both my friends roll off for initiative to see who will go first. So do we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and we roll for initiative, and my friend Odeth manages to secure the initiative for the Dustmen. He then activates Hoodie to open up with his auto gun, and he actually rolls off 3 hits when he actually opens up with the rapid fire ability of his auto gun, which is actually pretty good. However, when you roll all 3 of his dice to see if he managed to hit, he rolled all 3 ones, so because of that, they don't manage to do anything against the Killjoys, so his turn is wasted, unfortunately, for the beginning of his activations. Now, in response to that, Lady Domina then activates her gang leader, Furia, who then also activates Trixie as well as Raven. Raven as well as Furia drop down to the 3rd level of the Tower of Terror so that they can intercept any members of the Dustmen that start moving up towards their relic, so they kind of secure their location. Because they do double movements, they will not be able to shoot because they had to clamber down from the Tower of Terror to the next level. She also then activates Trixie too, who then runs to who just maintains her positions and takes aim with her gun. She also does use an aim action, so that way she gets +1 to hit, and she does try to cut loose on the prone figure of the Oculoid, who's still bleeding in the middle of the battlefield. Unfortunately for her, though, she rolled a 1, so because that, Lady Domina was unable to hit anybody. And that pretty much makes it the action phase for Lady Domina's response. My friend O'Death, seeing an opportunity to put some payback, decides to activate the Nerf Herder as well as his champion Roar. Because Roar is a champion, he does activate the Nerf Herder as well. He sends a double movement for Roar to go right behind to the right hand side of that little sight blocker there, that corrugated steel wall. He knows he can't shoot him because once he moves, he won't be able to shoot because he's carrying an unwieldy weapon. So he spends a double movement to get him some cover so that way he doesn't get shot at and return fire from the Killjoys who are arriving on the right hand flank. He then moves up the Nerf Herder, does his normal movement allowance, and has him take aim with his auto pistol, firing at rapid fire. And when he rolls for the rapid fire dice to see exactly how many shots he actually gets off 3 shots. Now, all 3 shots do manage to hit Marlowe, however, only one of them actually causes a wound upon her. So because of that, she gets seriously injured and she's laying on the ground bleeding out. Now, because she's so close to Harlow as well as to Nocturna, they both have to take cool tests to see if they stay on the ground. Unfortunately, both of those gangers do fail their cool tests, their nerf tests, so because of they run directly beneath the Tower of Terror to take cover because they want to get shot at. So because of them, they will not be able to do anything during the action phase because their nerve is broken and they're too busy trying to survive. In response, Lady Dama then moves Mad Donna over to the left-hand side to the top of the walkway there, so that way she has a good line of sight. Now, the reason why she moves Mad Donna there is because, aside from carrying her heavy stubber, Mad Donna is also packing a last pistol as well as a last gun, so she decides to take aim with her last gun instead and to aim it directly at Sockethead in order to shoot him as well. She also moves down a double movement for one-shot blonde to the 3rd level of the Tower of Terror to intercept any gangers that might be coming up from below. Mad Donna does take aim with her last gun and manages to hit Sockethead, but was unable to wound him, so because of that, Sockethead is now currently pinned, and that is why he's laying face up to represent the fact that he's taking cover behind that little ridgeway there, so that way he can keep on getting shot at by Mad Donna. O'Death decides to spend a double action movement to activate his leader, which is King Slender, and he actually charges upward is what he actually decided to do. Now, granted, you do only use half your movement when you're actually climbing up at different levels, but because Fury was so close to the edge, by the time he got done with his double movement for his charge, he actually made the distance in order to engage Furia. So because of that, King Slender clambers up to the 3rd level of the Tower of Terror and charges directly into Furia, engaging her in close combat. And that'll be an interesting fight to see because these are 2 different leaders of 2 different gangs throwing it down and fighting. He also spends a double action to move up Nerf number 1 to the left-hand side to act as a speed bump to intercept any gangers from flanking his leader at the same time. He wasn't able to shoot because he had to spend both of his movements in order to get him to the top. It's going to be interesting to see that fight though, because King Slender's armed with a sword and Furia's armed with a chain sword, so it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly how they both fight it out. And because they're currently engaged, they go directly into close combat. And needless to say, Furia had no problem just chopping down King Slender where he stood. She actually managed to land both attacks on him and actually cause a wound as well. She's also carrying an extra hand weapon as well, so because of that, she has 4 attacks in the close combat. Now, my friend O'Death was able to parry one of the attacks from the chain sword, so they only limited down to her 3 attacks. And of those 3 attacks, 2 caused wounds and also put a serious injury onto King Slender. So luckily for my friend O'Death, he is not out of action right now. He's just laying on the ground bleeding, and he actually has a little bit of a turn to wait for Lady Domina to hopefully make a recovery before Lady Domina finishes him off. Because King Slender is seriously injured, Lady Domina decides to move through him and decides to charge directly into the back of Nerf number 1, so that way that guy is engaged in close combat. I forgot to mention, King Slender did manage to put a wound onto Fury as well with his sword, so because of that, he is only 1 wound away from dying. However, because Juvies are so easy to defeat in close combat, due to the low weapon skill as well as her low toughness and low strength, Lady Dama has no fears of her leader being taken out by this juvie. Her plan is to actually send in Raven to charge directly into King Slender, who's the ganger there on the right hand side, and then spend a simple action to put a coup de grace on him and just kind of finish him off in close combat. And since all of Lady Domina's miniatures are either broken or have already been activated, the rest of the turn is dedicated to my friend O'Death. O'Death then activates the Oculoid, who actually spends 2 inches to move forward directly beneath the Tower of Terror on the ground level, so that way he doesn't keep on getting shot at all the time. And he spends a double movement action for Gazer, so that way he can climb up to the 2nd floor of the Tower of Terror in order to help out Sockethead, and to also try to climb the tower in order to destroy the Killjoys gang relic. And that pretty much makes up the action phase for turn number 2. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. Both my friends passed their bottle tests. When it comes to recoveries, Marlowe is still on the ground bleeding out, so she is still seriously injured. However, Harlow as well as Nocturna, they both managed to pass their cool test, so they will be able to act normally during the action phase for the next turn. For the Oculoid, he's still on the ground, still bleeding out because he's seriously injured, and also at the same time, Sockethead does get back on his feet again in order to make some moves. And sadly for my friend O'Death, his gang leader King Slender is still on the ground, still bleeding out, still seriously injured, which could also spell all kinds of problems for him during the next turn. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the end of the turn. Here's an overhead shot of the battlefield so that way you can see what's going on. As you can see, the members of the Dustmen are still moving along the base of the Tower of Terror, trying to climb up to get to the very top level, destroy the relic at the very top. At the same time, my friend Lady Domina is still deploying her Killjoys throughout the various levels in order to intercept. The thing that my friend Odeth's got to worry about is Mad Donna over there on the left-hand side on the top of the gantry walkway, because she could just open fire with her heavy stubber at any time because now she doesn't have to worry about moving. She has good line of sight to multiple levels of the Tower of Terror, and she can cut loose with that heavy stubber, which could prove to be really deadly for the Dustmen. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so during the action phase, she then activates Roar, who also activates the Nerf Herder. She tries to cut loose with all 2 shots from his heavy stubber to try to take out Marlowe. Unfortunately for him, though, he missed all of his shots, which is kind of sad because, you know, if anything's going to do anything, it's going to be the heavy stubber, right? But it didn't really do much of anything. However, Nerf Herder, however, he does do a basic movement of 4 inches forward, so because of that, the Nerf Herder does get really close towards Marlowe, and then he opens up with his auto pistol. Now he doesn't manage to hit her twice. He also managed to wound her twice as well and to put her out of action. So because of that, Marlowe will need to roll off on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to her at the end of the scenario. In response, Lady Domina then activates Mad Donna, who then also activates One-Shot Blonde as well. She cuts loose with her heavy stubber and manages to put a serious injury. Manages to seriously injured Gazer, manages to hit him once as well as wound him once. So because of that, Gazer's on the ground just bleeding out at this point. She also then sends in One-Shot Blonde, who charges down the next level directly into Sockhead. So because of that, Sockhead will be engaged in close combat. Meanwhile, across the table, Hoodie manages to get back, spending a double movement, getting to the second level of the Tower of Terror, trying to make his way up to the top of the tower to destroy the Killjoys gang relic. Meanwhile, on the third level of the Tower of Terror, Lady Domina activates her gang leader, Furia, who's going to be fighting against the Nerf Herder here in a second, and she also activates Raven as well. Raven moves up to the base to go base-to-base contact with King Slender so that way she can execute her coup de grace. And in the combat between Lady Domina's Furia as well as Nerf number 1, she had no problem whatsoever just putting that guy directly out of action. Of her 4 attacks, I think 3 wounded the Juvie, and when did the injury roll, I think 1 came up as a flesh wound, 1 was seriously injured, and the last one was out of action. So because of that, Nerf number 1 will need to roll up on the serious injury table at the end of the scenario to see exactly what happens to him. And because Raven used a simple coup de grace movement, she may have finished off King Slender, and he will need to do exactly the same thing at the end of the scenario. So right off the bat, 2 more members of the Dustmen are completely off the table. And to make matters worse for my friend Odeth, the combat between Sockhead as well as One-Shot Blonde ended up being a victory for One-Shot Blonde. She has a stiletto sword, so because of that, she does have toxin attacks, and my friend Odeth did fail his injury roll for that one, as a tough step for that one. So because he has to roll for injury for Sockhead, and Sockhead rolls out of action. So because of that, Sockhead will need to roll off on the serious injury table at the end of the scenario. And to make matters worse, she then also does a move through because she finished off Sockhead so quickly and goes directly into base contact with Gazer, which means that if she spends a simple action to finish him off with the coup de grace, that'll be 5 members of the Dustmen who will then go out of action as well. Meanwhile, for the rest of the action phase, Lady Domina then activates Nocturna, who then charges directly into the Nerf Herder. They get engaged in close combat. Luckily for Lady Domina, the Nerf Herder was unable to cause any injuries whatsoever onto Nocturna, and Nocturna also caused a serious injury onto the Nerf Herder. So because of that, the Nerf Herder is on the ground bleeding out, which is really bad for him because Lady Domina still has Harlow, who she can activate and then move forward as well as finish him off in the coup de grace. And because the only unactivated 5 that's left is Harlow real quick, Lady Domina decides to activate her Juve and then charges forward directly into the fallen and prone body of the Nerf Herder and finishes off that member of the gang. He will have to roll up on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to him at the end of the scenario as well. And so for all those of you who are paying attention at home, at this point the Dustmen have lost 5 members of their cult, and so because of that, things are not looking very good for my friend Odeth. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. And the first thing that my friend Odeth has to do is take a bottle test. Unfortunately, he just lost too many fighters and he fails his bottle test. So because of that, little misfire icon right next to Roar, because he's the next highest leadership member of the gang, members of his team will need to roll off on the next turn to see if they pass their cool test. And if they fail their cool test, they'll be fleeing off the battlefield, not fighting for the rest of the turn. So with the bottle test over with, we go directly to the rest of the recovery phase. Unfortunately for my friend Odeth, the Alkalite is still down, is still seriously injured. He's just laying on the ground bleeding out because the shot he got from that bolter was just horrific, I guess. But he does manage to get lucky, in which case Gazer does get back on his feet with a flesh wound, so he does have a fighting chance against One-Shot Blonde in close combat, so that part's kind of nice as well. So the recovery phase over with, we go directly to the top, the bottom of turn number 3, an overhead shot of the battlefield, so that way you can see what's going on. My friend O'Death only has 4 members of his gang still left over. He has Gazer, who's carrying a flesh wound. He has the Oculoid, who's still on the ground level, still bleeding out. He has the Hoodie, who's on the 2nd level of the Tower of Terror, as well as Roar in the bottom right-hand corner as well. Meanwhile, Lady Domina still has a bunch of gang members left. On the other side of the Tower of Terror, she has Harlow as well as Nocturna. On the 3rd level, she still has Mad Dawn on the left-hand side, as well as Raven, as well as Furia on the 3rd level. And the very top level, she still also has her gang member Trixie as well. So things are not looking very good for O'Death at this point. And seeing the writing on the wall, he decides to surrender at this point, in which case it takes directly to the end of the scenario, and the Killjoys manage to win on this one. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the end to the post-game, because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so let's go and talk about the Dustmen first. For their injuries, 5 members of the gang were injured. That was King Slender, Relic Razor, Sockhead, the Nerf Herder, as well as Nerf number 1. King Slender suffered a grievous injury, so because of that he will miss out his next scenario. However, Blood Razor and Nerf number 1 both earned humiliating injuries, so because of that they both suffer -1 leadership as well as -1 cool, and both those fighters also go into recovery as well. The Nerf Herder suffered an enfeebling injury, so because of that he goes into recovery, and he also loses a 1 point of toughness. However, Sockhead rolls out all cold, so because of that he's just perfectly fine. Which means that of the members of his gang, 4 of them will not be able to participate in the next scenario because they're in recovery. However, there is some good news. My friend does manage to get Beaker as well as Half-Face. They both end up recovering now because they're out of recovery now, so they will be able to participate in the next scenario, but almost half the gang is currently out, which is also including his leader as well as one of his psychers as well. Further advancements, he didn't earn enough experience points to advance at this time, so because of that he doesn't get any advancements. He earns no new territories because he lost the scenario. So at the merchant, he did earn 10 credits from the scenario for entering D 3 times 10 creds. He earned 10 of them, and he also managed to earn 10 credits from his settlement as well. He decided to place all 20 of his credits into his stash and decides to save up to for the next scenario, so that way he can purchase some things later on. For the reputation, he gets +1 points of reputation for fighting against the Killjoys for the very first time, but he also loses that point of reputation for bottling out. He does, however, earn a point of reputation from his settlement, which brings his total reputation to 3 points. His current record right now is at 0 wins as well as 2 losses, and his new gang rating is at 1,090 points. Meanwhile, for the Killjoys, for injuries, Marlo the Juvie rolled an out cold result, so because of that she makes a full recovery, so that was the only injury she had to suffer. For her advancements, Harlow does level up to level 2. It's +1 to her cool stats, so that way she can, have a better cool stats as well. And plus, since she's leveled up, she could also start taking more expensive gear for her Juvie as well. From their territory, they managed to earn a brand new territory called the Wastes. Now, the Waste doesn't really give you any bonuses in terms of reputation or even loot for that matter, so it may seem like kind of a, look for back of a better word, a waste of a scenario for a territory. However, there is a kind of a cool rule with the wastes. During the occupation phase of the campaign, whenever someone attacks her to try to take her territory from her, she can usually use the waste as the thing that gets sacrificed, not one of her more valuable territories. So it could end up helping her out later on. During the merchant phase, she earned 30 credits from the scenario as well as 50 credits from her settlement. Also, when she rolled her 2d6 from her settlement to see if she recruited a ganger or a juve, she rolled 1-6, so she got a brand new juve named Lucky Lucy from her settlement. She purchased flak armor, a last pistol, as well as a shock whip for Lucky Lucy, as well as a last gun for Harlow as well. She also purchased a drop rig for Mad Donna and frag grenades for Trixie, and she took her 5 remaining credits and put inside her stash. For her reputation, she got +1 points of reputation from her Stinger Mold Sprawl territory, as well as 1 from her settlement, and she also gets 1 more additional reputation point from fighting against the Dustmen for the very first time. Combined out with the 6 points of reputation she had from before, her current reputation total is at 9 points. Her new record is at 2 wins as well as 0 losses, and her new gang rating is at 1,165 points. So that's good deal for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest and greatest news about our hobby. That's good deal for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.